First and foremost, I want to say thank you to everyone for taking the time out to be with us here today. We definitely appreciate it, and we have a fun afternoon planned for you.
So we just want to go over some, oh, am I echoing, Jamina?
Yeah.
Okay, so we just want to go over some housekeeping notes quickly. So the main event is going to be recorded, and so it'll be available afterwards in the session. And we would just ask that you guys keep your webcams on as much as possible. Feel free to use the chat feature as well, just so you can engage with the vendors and the fellow attendees. If you have any technical issues, feel free to reach out to Jessica Tanton directly or myself and Jamina. And last but not least, bathrooms are down the hall to the left of your house. Please don't take your PC with you. And last thing to just mention quickly is we would just want everyone to change your names on the screen to your full name, just so we know who you are. And in the end, when we have prizes and etc. Thanks.
Perfect. Thanks, Mira. So you may have noticed that our theme for today is the 90s theme. The 90s has become a decade where everyone has nostalgia for. It's basically described as a time for peace, prosperity, and most importantly, technological advancement, which is why we picked it for our theme today. I did want to jump in very quickly into our agenda. So we're going to start off with a brief presentation from our keynote speaker, and then we're going to go into our vendor interview discussion. After that, we'll be splitting each and one of you into 8 random groups, where you'll each have the opportunity to have a speed dating and a networking opportunity with their sponsoring vendors. Each session is going to last roughly 8 minutes. So please be sure to attend all 8 of the speed dating sessions and be sure to be back around 3 p.m. We're going to have our event wrap up at that opportunity for you guys to all win some prizes. So we're going to be doing some very fun trivia questions, some scavenger hunt to wrap up towards the end. Please be sure to have your camera on. We're going to make sure that that's basically mandatory for you guys to win the scavenger hunt. It's going to be really exciting. We have a lot of offered prizes that we have. We have $500 e-gift cards. It's going to be given away to 3 different winners. So you'll definitely want to stay towards the end to participate.
All right, thank you. So we just want to, before we introduce our special keynote speaker, we just want to introduce our supporting vendors here with us today. So I would just ask that each vendor just quickly wave so everyone can see who you are on the screen. So beginning with Microsoft Surface, we have Dave Legault, the Partner Sales Executive, and Naveed Mazumdar, the Partner Development Manager at Microsoft. And then from Jabra, we have Tom Roberts, the AV Distribution Manager. From Cisco, we have Kevin Janke, the Cisco Collaboration Channel Specialist. From LG, we have Mike Delamora, the Director of Sales in Business Solutions. From Samsung, we have Jack Lau, the Distribution Sales Manager in Enterprise Business Division. From Intel, we have Santiago Reyes, the LAR and Canada Business Development Manager in System Product Group. From EPSON, we have Mark Ibada, the Distribution Account Manager. And lastly, from ELO, we have Matthew Perrault, the Regional Sales Manager in Canada, and Lee Wallace, the Channel Account Executive in Canada. So lastly, I'm going to hand it off to Mike Murphy, the Director of Sales from Sharp, to introduce our keynote speaker today.
Thanks, Mira. As Mira says, my name is Mike Murphy. I'm the Director of Sales for Sharp Canada. And before I introduce the keynote speaker, I'd like to announce the first chance to win a prize today. A link will be posted into the chat right about now, and which will lead you to a video from Sharp Electronics. Everyone who views the video will receive a $25 e-gift card. Just be sure to watch the video before the 29th of October. Bookmark the link and take advantage of the prize. Now on to the introduction of the keynote speaker. Digital signage isn't a new technology segment, but in today's world, there's an increasing need to communicate effectively to groups in public spaces and corporate offices. There isn't an organization in the world that doesn't have new health and safety procedures that need to be communicated to the masses. Today, we have with us a true veteran and an expert of the digital signage industry. David Haynes, once a journalist with the Winnipeg Free Press and Calgary Herald, is the go-to authority when it comes to digital signage in North America. Dave has established himself as a consultant responsible for high-profile digital signage deployments but might be most widely known as the quarterback of industry information through the success of his industry blog called 16.9. 16.9 is the industry pipeline to all things happening in the digital signage segment. If you don't have it, I'll pump it for Dave right now. It's something a couple of times a day you get a message and it keeps you up to speed on all things happening for digital signage. Dave keeps the pulse on the industry with updates on new technology, awe-inspiring signage deployments, both good and bad, and keeping up with the people in the industry. To date, Dave has had over 7,500 postings on his blog, over 200 video interviews, and there's no sign he's slowing down. I personally know Dave, in addition to all that, as the host of one of the best annual events in terms of digital signage at the former DSE show down in Las Vegas each year. And we used to joke that you could almost skip the show because you've made contact with everybody you needed the night before at Dave's event. So with that, I'm honored to introduce the keynote speaker for Ingram Micro's Pro AV and Digital Signage 90s Block Party, the director of the Digital Signage Federation, David Haynes.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Mike, for those nice words. And hi from the Atlantic bubble. I am a little disturbed by the 90s block party thing because in the 1990s, I was in my 30s. So I suspect a lot of people on this call weren't even born or they're little kids running around in diapers. I talk a lot on digital signage. Obviously, I write a lot about it. And I have this really bad habit of preparing way too much material for the amount of time I have allotted. So my apologies in advance. I'm going to kind of bomb through these, but it'll work out. Just going to fire this up. All right, so 2020 has been a crazy year. Everything has kind of changed, as we all know. It's had a huge impact on a lot of things, but in a weird way, it's been quite positive in many respects for digital signage. What you had was technology that in a lot of cases was a nice to have, and now it's a need to have for a lot of businesses. Timely on-the-spot messaging is now essential. Here's an example. It's Mr. Photoshop in action here, but nonetheless, it gives you a sense of what's going on in terms of a window-based display that's telling you about access control, how to order, everything else, and enabling a restaurant that is maybe completely focused on dine-in that can't do dine-in. At least now they can kind of do business using digital signage. Businesses who didn't already use digital signage in the last few months, they've had to resort to hacks. And these are not just local businesses. If you look at the left-hand side of the screen, that's Costco using a dry erase marker board just to get basic information across it saying, like everywhere, they're out of wipes and they're out of toilet paper and this and that. And you can see from some of the other images, the hacks that they've had to resort to just to get basic information across to their customers about changes, about availabilities and everything else. These are operations who wish they had digital signage. And that's not just me doing supposition, I've heard this. We've heard a lot through the years about digital transformation. That transformation pace has gone from plans that were in place to do something over the next 3 to 5 years. It's now the next 3 to 5 months. A lot of it has already happened. Walmart's a great example of that. World's biggest retailer, they have announced that their new stores, and they've announced there's going to be 200 of these at least, are all built around the idea of mission-driven shopping, including curbside pickup. Instead of it just being little storage lockers or something off to the side, it's front and center to what they do. And the design in the store feels more like an airport in terms of wayfinding, navigation, and so on, making it really simple for people to find their way through. And digital signage is a big part of this. When COVID broke out, there was a lot of discussion and reasonable speculation that this was going to be the end for touchscreens. That hasn't happened at all. The great thing about touch is you're touching something, you have to sanitize your hands after. It's not like a railing or something where you touch it and you don't even realize you're doing it. This is expressly a touch interaction, and it's better. Restaurant operators and retailers are finding, banks included, that if you can do self-service ordering, self-service information lookup, you don't have to expose the customer or the staff to one-to-one contact. So it's less risky, certainly, than it's just a better way to do it as opposed to using a touchscreen. There are store of the future things that have been around for a long time. Have never really taken off, like remote advisory for banking, for health information, getting information about different kinds of tools, power tools, and so on. That's going to accelerate now because you can do this sort of thing using video conferencing, and we're now all used to, as we're doing today, using Zoom, using Teams, using all the different platforms out there. So getting advice, doing transactional work on a video screen is now second nature. And in the same way, you have technology that's again been around for a long time, like lineup and queue management information systems. Those you used to find in just like passport offices and DMV offices, that kind of thing. You're going to see that being used in all kinds of places because it manages the access into a building, allows people to wait out in a parking lot safely, using digital signage to message on in-window displays and elsewhere that, okay, you're up, you can come in now. So consumer behaviors have been heavily reshaped by COVID, and stuff that maybe was thought of as experimental and well, let's try this out. Now it's kind of bedded in, even for older folks like me who I use mobile banking, but I'm sure all kinds of boomers did not. Now they were forced to use it and they realized, hey, this is actually pretty good. Digital signage is now a baseline design consideration. So what do I mean by that? You're finding in places like big corporate office tower lobbies that used to think in terms of, I'm going to put in granite, I'm going to put in exotic wood, I'm going to put in a waterfall, whatever it may be. Now they're putting in very large format digital LED screens. And the attraction of that in part is visually exciting, but also if you don't like it, it's a file change. You're not ripping out exotic wood or anything else. You can change out the look and feel of a building in a matter of seconds. DV LED, digital direct view LED, is now mainstream to a level of you're seeing LED in places like bars. This is in a bar beside Lambeau Field where the Green Bay Packers play. That's a 3-sided, big, fine pitch LED display. You would not have seen that even a couple of years ago. And this is in a Catholic girls' high school in the Bay Area. Now, granted, it's the Bay Area, there's a lot of money there, but this would have been going in through an endowment fund. But that's the level of mainstreaming that you're now starting to see with digital or with direct view LED. Speaking of LED, it's not just what you see in big stores and in airports and so on. There are different types of technologies at play now, and some of them are quite interesting. Transparent LED on mesh, which this is at the National Arts Center in Ottawa. It goes over glass and clads a building. You have LED and window film. That's something that LG has pioneered. There's a few companies doing it. You can have LED as a media ceiling. So unlike LCDs and some other products, you can suspend an LED facing down and you can have like a sky in a shopping mall or a building that doesn't have atrium glass or anything. You can have LED sculptures, and really interesting is in retailers where they have big fabric light boxes, they're printed material. They're now starting to put in low-res lighting arrays in behind them to just add a little movement to something that's otherwise static. So there's all kinds of ways LED are being used, and it's just exploding in terms of new uses. In terms of the technology itself, you have what you mostly see, which is surface-mounted diodes. They call it SMD. But you're starting to see mini LED and micro LED. Mini LED is something that you can directly view it, but it's not likely that it's going to be a mainstream direct view LED product. It's probably going to be more used for backlighting for LCDs, but micro LED is a different matter entirely. First company to come out with it was Sony with its crystal LED. But both LG and Samsung have micro LED products now. And you can make the argument that they're not really micro LED. Technically, maybe they're mini LED or something like that. But the LED lights are microscopic. And the big thing about them, and the nerds don't, or everybody but the nerds doesn't really care about the definition. It's the fact that you have a tiny light with a lot of black surrounding it, and that gives you contrast. And contrast means a really great looking picture. So you're seeing these very large displays that look as good, if you step back just a little bit as a QLED or an OLED or that kind of thing. The visuals are extraordinary. Projection is something that's been around digital signage forever. Hasn't really taken off, but now it's back and it's getting somewhere. The biggest reason is we've gone from lamps to lasers. So lamps, you might have got 2,500 hours, 300 or 3,000 hours, that sort of thing. And then you had to make changes, which if you're running something 8 hours a day, that's a problem. It's going to blank out on you pretty quick. Now with lasers, they're running 20,000 hours or more. You have interesting new form factors like these EPSON light scene projectors, or like track light cones. And the software is making it a lot easier to do things like edge blending and stacking different projectors together to get a larger image and map a surface. Media playback is evolving. For the longest time in digital signage, I've been doing this for more than 20 years, it was PCs. And PCs are still out there, but they're kind of specializing now. And you're seeing PCs being used for heavy lifting digital signage jobs where there's a big video wall with a lot of pixels, a lot of movement, everything else, or they're using it for AI-based computer vision applications. So analyzing who's looking at the screen or the demographic profile of who's looking at the screen. System on chip displays have been around for 7 or 8 years now. When they started, they were kind of crappy, to be honest, but they've come a long, long way to a point where they're pretty feature comparative in terms of power and everything else with a PC. And most of the major manufacturers are using them. And in the cases of a Samsung and an LG, it's across pretty much all of their lineup. And you also have set-top boxes. So you can do digital signage off an Apple TV. You can do it off of an Amazon Fire Stick. There's a company called BrightSign that's a spin out of Roku, which is a set-top box that also does media playback devices. So there's a whole range of options out there. CMS software, from my perspective, is starting to be somewhat disintermediated. And what I mean by that is for very simple applications, you're getting to a level now that you don't necessarily need a CMS to do what you need to do. You can use a web app, JavaScripting, just a browser that's visualizing data, that sort of thing, and marry it to a base platform that does device management and remote management, and not incur the cost or the complexity or the user experience that you don't really want of a digital signage CMS. That doesn't negate all the great CMSs out there, particularly those that are specialized on something. But the entry-level platforms that are just selling on price and ease of use, I think they're going to be challenged moving forward because there's other ways to do this that doesn't really require what they do. Data integration has been something I've been talking about for a long time. It's now to a point where it's kind of fundamental to a lot of digital signage. It allows you to do things like show real-time information in production environments. You can get insights-based scheduling and targeting. Cineplex, good Toronto company, just recently announced a platform that does that, where they're using all kinds of data points to influence scheduling and targeting and what shows up on screens. When you start to use data, you can dramatically reduce the amount of work you have to do in terms of scheduling, because you're kind of in a set it and forget it situation. And when you're starting to show real-time, hyper-relevant content on a screen, you're moving digital signage from being something that's just promotional and a nice to have to something that's truly mission critical for a business. My last point is, I always encourage people to think about how they can solve a problem and don't get hung up on selling gadgets. When COVID broke out in the last few months, and I just wrote about this today, there's been all kinds of companies that have released all these sensors, hybrid sanitizers, dispensers, and everything else as solutions to COVID. But the buyers are looking at this and going, well, what am I going to do with this thing after COVID goes away? Do I have another use for it? So I think that's kind of stalling the adoption rate of it. What's better from my point of view is boring digital signage. And by boring, I mean, there's not a lot of wow factor about it. It's just doing a job and it's doing it well. And I use this example of an airport. I'm not quite sure which airport this is, but it's a big direct view LED screen over a bulkhead, at the screening area, and it's telling you how long you have to wait. So it's using IoT sensors to analyze crowd levels. It's showing the gates, it's telling you that there's TSA pre there, there's clear there, and so on. It's just effective, it's just operational, and that really in a lot of ways is what digital signage should be all about, as opposed to, oh, that looks cool on a wall over there. Again, and my apologies for bombing through this stuff. My blog is called 69. As Mike said very nicely, I've been doing this for 15 plus years. I've got 200 plus podcasts on there, and I'm kind of known in my industry as the industry's bullshit filter. So if you're not familiar with it, I'd encourage you to look it up. And with that, we can kind of jump over to some questions. And my first one is regarding Microsoft Surface. Naveed, how is the Microsoft Hub 2S bridging the digital and physical divide in today's working environment, and what opportunities can it create for resellers?
Hey Dave, so there's a couple of things that I can address. So when you look at the Hub 2S, it's exciting to see how it's evolved over the last 3 years. So the product was designed for collaboration. With COVID-19 and the whole pandemic, a work environment, a hybrid work environment is the new norm. Before, meetings would consist of, a group of people in one room and maybe a couple remote workers dialing in virtually. Now, essential workers are in the office and a lot of people are working from home. You need to be able to find a way to collaborate in a meaningful way. Just because the pandemic is going on doesn't mean meetings are going to stop. So you want to have the best experience wherever you are. So for example, if you look at the old hub, it wasn't too mobile, but comparing it to the new hub, there's a roaming stand that you could use. I know there's a lot of offices that are changing to an open concept environment to avoid having meetings in those crowded areas. So with the Hub 2S, you can actually move it around easily to make any room a video conferencing and collaborative environment. Another update that we have is with the Windows 10 Pro and Enterprise operating system being available. So before, the Hub was running on a Windows 10 Teams operating system. This was a bit more limited if you compare your regular PC with it. But now with this update, you can run third-party applications, whether it be WebEx, Zoom, or Teams. The new update lets you essentially personalize your experience and make the Hub become a large screen PC. And at the end of the day, customers want devices that are built for communicating and collaborating. The Hub 2S wasn't designed by just the Surface hardware engineers. It was also designed by the Teams engineers, just to make sure you get the hardware and the software aspect in one device. In terms of like the current hybrid work environment, the Hub 2S comes with a wide view camera, which captures employees who are socially distancing in the same environment. Along with this, there's also a far field microphone. This can make it easier for those speaking in the same environment to be heard if considering they're away from the device. Again, the camera and the display are both 4K quality, so you can be seen and heard in crystal clear quality. When it comes to the audio, like the touchscreen, whiteboarding, the inking capability, all this stuff was designed for the purpose of making collaboration easier. We've seen various industries adopt the Hub, whether it be hospitals using the Hub to conduct meetings to avoid having multiple people in the same room, or professors and teachers using the Hub to conduct the lectures to remote students. There's always a use case for every industry. And this all leads down to the opportunity for resellers. So rather than offering just one, either the solution or the hardware solution fix, the topic of providing the full end-to-end solution is now in the conversation. So hope that answers the question.
All right. Thank you. Now we'll move on to Cisco. Kevin, I know the web export has some advanced features, but that may not be a fit for everyone's needs. What about the rest of the portfolio, and how can WebEx help more users?
Right. Good question. Yeah, we did a lot of splashy marketing. Sorry?
Oh, never mind.
Oh, I was going to say, indeed, the web export is something that got a lot of marketing, but at the same time, as some of you know, I've been around this space for a long time, joined Cisco from Tandberg video conferencing. And so I recognize that, the higher end solution is not always the best fit for everything or every space right now. At the same time, what people don't always know is that we have a really advanced chipset that exists in all of our endpoints. So even our most entry-level device has things like AI, facial recognition, advanced analytics built into the device. So not only are we going out there right now and talking to customers about how we can put a device in the room that is built for collaboration and communication. It can be your wireless display screen for sharing content. You can make a phone call on it. You can dial into a web meeting on it. You can make a full-blown video call on it. But it has some of these other advanced features like we'll say a small digital media player inside of it. So you can be proactively pushing content out to your organization. And when we're leveraging things like our AI capabilities that are doing things like facial recognition, or we're turning on actually facial recognition and recognizing if the person is wearing a mask, we now have an AI tool that we're layering on top of the organization to ensure that that organization is compliant with new health and safety codes, for example. And I love what you said about outcomes, because I think it's important that we highlight these features, because this will directly align to budget that is created by our organizations right now. So when we can go to them and talk to them about a device that's going to be measuring people count inside of rooms to ensure compliance, to make sure that an employee is not going to sue this organization because they've been too lax in their health and safety compliances. And we can show them these quantifiable reports that these video devices are going to be gathering from these rooms. And oh, did I mention it's a top of the quadrant collaboration solution and does all these other amazing things that you need to do for that hybrid work environment that my friend from Microsoft just talked about. So.
All right, thank you.
Of course, I will color inside some of these lines in our breakout session, and appreciate everybody's time today.
All right, thank you. Tom from Jabra, how are Jabra collaboration products enabling fast and economical solutions for the hybrid office or classroom?
Thanks, Dave. Make sure I'm on here. When we talk about Jabra collaboration products, it's pretty much two products, right? We've got our Panicast camera here that's on a table stand, and then we've got our Speak series of speakerphones. So when we're talking, these products were originally designed for huddle spaces, and as we all know, there's not a huge push by companies to go outfit huddle spaces today, but we believe they will be in the future, right? So we used to battle, all of us that have been in the video industry used to battle legacy mindset that I don't need WebEx, I don't need Zoom, I don't need BlueJeans, I don't need Teams, right? We're together every day. We have a couple meeting rooms. We can meet that way, right? Well, we flipped the world upside down. Now everybody in the world uses some sort of video platform. And our camera laptop, our laptops and our cameras, and the audio cameras in our laptops and audio from our laptops are not really designed to be premium. They're designed to be convenience. So when we took a step back and looked at these products that were originally designed for the huddle space, and throughout the pandemic started talking to all kinds of different customers, we found that education was a key area of focus. That was an industry where everybody was always face-to-face with each other, so they really didn't think they needed cameras. Now, virtually every school district across the world is putting some plan in place to get it. And what's unique about this camera is it's got a full 180-degree view. I'll show you guys in the breakout sessions a little bit later what that looks like. You can position this in front of a classroom where a teacher may be there and the students won't, and the students can see the entire environment. In addition, if you flip it around and the professor or teacher can't be there and there are students in the room, the professor can see the students as they see them. So that's one place where it's growing. As I mentioned, the office spaces, when we do all go back to the offices, depending on what country you're in, there's all kinds of flavors of what's happening. More and more spaces are going to be video enabled. So the simple combination of these two devices with a flat screen, and you bring your own meeting to that room. And then just tying it into the digital signage aspect of things. Think of being the dean of a school or the president of a school, and you have implemented a digital signage solution across your campus. You could jump in and send live video messages to your students, and we believe our camera does a great job of that, because no matter what setting you're in, you're getting a real good high quality picture for not that much money versus just recording on your laptop. So that's just if that's a quick answer, I'm sticking with it.
All right. Staying on the topic of education, we'll move on to EPSON. Mark, can you comment on how EPSON is going to approach the education market differently than your competitors and going forward from here?
Sure, thanks, great question. Well, EPSON is a company with many patented technologies, from projection to print to scanning. So we're going to take all of our best technologies and take a look at how can we create hybrid classrooms so that we maintain the social distancing norms that are required, for the different localities depending on the COVID levels. And we want to make sure that everyone has a robust and rewarding education experience to make sure that, even though if they're learning at home or learning in classroom, they can still benefit from having the education presence of being in a classroom, whether it be virtual or in school. Thanks.
All right. Now we'll move on to ELO and talk about retail and hospitality. Matthew, can you comment on how ELO devices will help businesses in the area make it through a possible second wave of COVID? I know that I just saw something today about something ELO is doing with 22 miles.
Hey, Dave, can you hear me?
There he is.
Sorry, having some issues here, and the Ingram team knows that it's been a long day. Hey, I'll thank you for the instructions. As Dave said on the great points for customer interactive experience, we must see what COVID has done to the world. What has it done the first break, so to offices, restaurants, and retail locations? They all had to fully shut down. How has this hurt their revenue? How has this hurt their operations? The idea, and we're hearing this, in the GTA, Montreal, Ottawa, out west, out east, of a second wave among us. It looks like it's coming. How are these operations going to be able to obtain? Before, they all had the same playing field. They were all kind of blindsided with COVID. So they all had to shut down. All operations were on the same, like I said, same level. The second wave, to be successful, you'll have to adapt. You need to be prepared. How will these companies ensure customers the security of in-store experiences while being safe? Another question would be, how would they deal with the strength of the government may pose on these organizations? This is where ideas of self-sustaining operations and environments comes into play. Basically, the idea of self-serve kiosks, product identifiers throughout their stores, price checkers, temp sensor cameras. These will all be needed to be operational during these times. But not only that, but as they said, what happens with this hardware afterwards? Let's hope that COVID, we find a resolution for this sooner than later. But when we do, you don't want to be able to offer this solution and then just have to throw it away. You need to adapt to other environments when you want to utilize that hardware. And that's where ELO comes into play with our unified platform. Right now, we can have conversations, and we'll show this in our presentation, but a self-sufficient kiosk solution with a temp sensor camera. We didn't rush to market. Our team was very diligent of taking their time to make sure this was a product that was not only a great success for COVID and the next waves, but also the next step, the next evolution of what you may need this. So this temp sensor gauge could be something as maybe an employee sign-in and moving forward. So there's other adaptations. So we'll all go through that in our presentation, but we look forward to seeing you guys. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, it's a great point about future-proofing. Now we'll move on to Samsung. Jack, can you give us an example of a new business opportunity that has come up during the COVID era?
Sure, thank you, Dave. So there definitely has been many challenges for businesses during the pandemic. Many companies, yeah. So many companies have had to postpone or cancel the projects just to reduce spending. But as you mentioned earlier, companies still need to communicate to their customers. Just that the main difference is that now they need to do it differently and in a safe way. So what we found is that to address these unique requirements, some partners have come up with some creative solutions to deal with this need for safe communications. And some of the examples are things that we've actually heard mentioned by yourself as well as some others, where these partners have incorporated Samsung products into these solutions for temperature sensing, queue management, traffic and crowd control. So utilizing both the Samsung display as well as the additional hardware to meet this requirement. And by using these solutions, it reduces the need for a human being to communicate the same information so that they're not put in harm's way and being put at exposure of the virus. In addition to that, what we found is that there are some existing Samsung products and solutions where, because of the situation, some new opportunities have come up for that as well. And a couple of those that come to mind are in the area of remote management and collaboration. So one example is Cisco and Samsung have partnered to come up with a bundle to make use of the Cisco Mini Room Kit, so that using that and the Samsung Flip display, we can really bring an enhanced level of collaboration. So just like we're on this call now, where we can share information with the audience, but imagine if we had that solution, then we could feel like everybody's in front of the same screen and you can really have two-way interaction. And that's the level of collaboration that we're working on. And especially in this area, a time where there's a lot less business travel, people working at home. So the more we can do remotely, the better it is for business. As well as one last thing is, as you shared earlier in one of the pictures, that businesses have to communicate information to consumers. And one of the areas is our Samsung semi-outdoor displays, where you can have it in a shop where the display is on the inside, but you can share information with customers that are actually on the outside. And these panels are bright enough so that customers can see and get that information without actually having to enter the business. So I will go over some of these opportunities with the group during our group sessions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, let's move on to LG. Mr. Delamora, you've got your hockey playoff beard going.
Yes, I do.
What will LG continue to do differently moving forward now and after COVID?
Yeah, give me a second.
Stop playing your damn game.
Have you seen the system N64? This stuff is bleeding edge. Sorry.
Okay, that's all the time we have for you.
Thank you. No, David, thanks again for having us here. These are uncertain times and it sucks. We've seen a lot of people struggling, but we've also seen a lot of great innovation. And, in the industry, it's really beautiful to watch the battle and the compete of some of the partners in the industry. So at LG, what we've done, we really haven't panicked. Instead, we've adjusted and we've innovated. So in that, one of the things we've done in our adjustment is bringing new products and new solutions to the market. So I know you've talked a lot about these COVID solutions and how effective they are, how well they're adopted. And maybe they are, maybe they're not. And really what we're trying to do is, like you said, we're trying to solve problems, solve problems, not sell widgets or gadgets. In having these conversations, we're understanding more problems. We're showing the possibility of what this visual communication media is able to do. And maybe it's a COVID solution, but maybe it stimulates other ideas. The other thing we've done is we've made investments in our people, in our products, in the ecosystem. So we've expanded our team. We're growing. We've introduced some new products during these COVID times. You mentioned a couple of them. So we have our new transparent 14 millimeter film product, the LED Direct View. As well, we've launched our new micro LED, which has been dubbed and well marketed as the LG Magnet. So some great products that we're coming out with. But more than anything, we've invested in our ecosystem. A lot of our partners have struggled during these times, and we're trying to double down on them and show them solutions and bring training and really make sure that they know that we're in their corner, we've got their back, and we will get through this together. Both working through their solutions and helping them grow their reach in the market.
All right, thank you. And now we'll talk to Santiago from Intel for our last question. How is the Intel NUC, I never knew if it was the NUC or the nuke, supporting the channel in their digital signage initiatives?
But anyhow,
There he is.
we have been in this market for now 8 years, and what we are bringing to the channel is basically a lot of innovation. We're talking about digital signage initiatives here, but in reality, our product is being used in multiple ways. When we launch a product, we are launching a product that we believe it's for certain applications, at least that's what we are thinking, but at the end, the customers are using them in multiple ways. It's amazing how our partners are using what we're bringing to the market. So basically, we're bringing not just a lot of innovation every year. This last year was key for us. 2019 was our year to prepare to what we are launch actually this year, and we are still launching some products in 2020. But that is actually allowing our customers to enable new usage models. You were talking about artificial intelligence. How can we do something else? And that is exactly what some of our partners are doing with our products today. Hey, how can I do interaction with my audience without probably not necessarily even to interact with the screen? It's just an image of somebody interacting with that person and responding questions through artificial intelligence. So the other thing that we are doing is trying to help our partners to promote the solutions that they have in the market. Whatever they are bringing to market with our product, with the Intel NUC, we are working with them, helping them to promote the solutions that they have, because those solutions are great, and sometimes they need to be known in the market, and not just in Canada, but in other markets as well. We have, of course, presence worldwide. We can support, if that, of course, is the intent of the partner, to go abroad and promote those solutions in other countries. And finally, I will say that to help the channel, we are also helping them on allowing them to use our brand. We just launched a co-brand program where they can use the built with Intel NUC or design with Intel NUC and the Intel NUC elements as well. So yeah, multiple possibilities, and I will touch base with everybody else at the breakout. So thank you.
All right, so it's NUC. Now I know. All right, thank you everybody for some great answers. I'll turn this back over to Jamina.
Perfect. Thanks, Dave. Thank you all for the sponsoring vendors for participating in our channel discussion. And Dave, thank you. A big thank you to you. We definitely appreciate you joining us today, presenting and moderating the interview. We do have lots of presentations coming up, and there's a lot for you guys all to learn, so please stay tuned. We definitely have some fun discussions planned for you. So starting now, you're all going to start receiving a pop-up message. It's going to ask you to move to your assigned breakout room. So you'll be staying in the same room just about until 3 p.m. So don't go anywhere and don't worry about clicking any buttons. You're automatically going to be moved. At 3 p.m., you'll automatically be moved back to this main room for games and prizes. So make sure to attend every session. There's about 8 sessions and 8 minutes for each. So please pay attention, and there's going to be vendor clues, and be sure to write them down. So these will help you actually win prizes when you guys come back here at 3 p.m. So don't forget that there's going to be a live prize draw of 3 times the $500 grand prizes of an e-gift card.
Hello to everybody still in the room. Just you should have received a pop-up message. Just accept that message and you'll be moved into your room. Again, everybody who's still in the room, you guys should have received a pop-up message. Just accept that message and you'll be moved automatically into your breakout room. Just unmute yourself if you're having any issues.